Hi everyone, welcome back for lecture 2. In this lecture, we will be exploring the two categories of speech sounds, consonants and vowels. We will do a little bit more definition and classification of those two types of speech sounds. And we'll be looking at student spelling errors and how that might signal to us the phonological confusion that young children often have. So let's start with defining and classifying the consonant sounds. Consonants are formed with the mouth partially closed. The airflow when you make the consonant sounds is obstructed by the teeth, lips, or tongue. And we're going to categorize or classify consonant sounds along a number of distinctive features. The first being voicing. Some consonants are made with the vocal cords engaged or buzzing. We call these voiced consonants, and they include sounds like z, and j. So you can put your fingers on your voice box when you say the sound that's typically made by the letter Z, for example. Z, you feel that buzzing in your vocal cords. Other consonant sounds are unvoiced. There's no buzzing in the vocal cords, like the sound typically made by the letter S or represented by the letter S. If you hold your fingers over your vocal cords when you say S or F or Ch, you don't feel that buzzing. Those are the unvoiced sounds. If you look at the consonant chart, you'll see that there's a listing of the voiced and unvoiced pairs of sounds together. This is something that students often confuse in their speech and spelling. Some students will need support to hear the differences between the voiced and unvoiced pairs and to put their hand on their voice box to hear those differences, just like we did. Consonant sounds also differ in terms of continuancy. Some sounds are called stops, like the sound k or p. Other sounds are continuants because they seem to say a continuous stream of air, s or mm. And finally, some consonant sounds differ in terms of nasality. Some sounds are made by sending air through the mouth, such as b and g. Others are made by sending air through the nose, such as ng. The consonant chart in speech to print organizes consonant sounds by place and manner of articulation. Place of articulation deals with where the sound is made. Left to right on the consonant chart goes from the front to the back of the mouth by place of articulation. Drawing students' attention to what their mouths are doing when they make each sound can be very useful to support them to hear and feel the differences. Manner of articulation refers to where the lips, teeth, and tongue are, and if the voice box is turned on or off. Top to bottom of the consonant chart is organized by manner in which the airstream is obstructed. We've already discussed a little bit the difference between stop and continuous sounds. There are 3 pairs of stop sounds. The voiced and unvoiced versions of each sound are often confused by children, such as b and p. Sometimes what people think of as letter reversal is actually confusion of the sounds, whether it is a voiced or unvoiced version of that sound. And the problem should be addressed in instruction in terms of a phonological confusion and not necessarily a letter confusion. Drawing attention to the differences can help prevent what might look like letter confusion later on. When starting to draw a student's attention to sounds in spoken words, it can be useful to begin with the continuants rather than the stops. It's easier to start to attend to a sound that can be held in the speech stream, such as s. There are 3 nasal consonant sounds, n, and ng. Linguists call these stop sounds because the airflow is blocked, but the sounds and can be held continuously. So for teaching young children, they're usually thought of as continuants. Fricatives are all continuants. Friction is caused as air is obstructed and forced through a narrow space. There are two affricates, ch and j. They differ only in voicing. The two liquids, l and r, cause children the most trouble in speaking, reading, and spelling because the sounds sort of float out of the mouth, and how they sound depends on where the sound is in the word, the beginning, middle, or end. Glides also have vowel-like qualities. These sounds are not the peak of a symbol like a vowel is. We'll learn more about that later. But the glide sound quickly moves from the glide to the vowel that follows it. Glides are always followed by a vowel, never by a consonant, and they are never the last sound in an English word. The letters W and Y sometimes don't represent consonant sounds, but rather represent part of a vowel team, like in the words snow or toy. Liquids, glides, and nasals are referred to as sonorants. They are made with partial obstruction of airflow and have a more vowel-like quality. Children have more trouble attending to these sounds, probably because they are harder to pull apart or isolate in the speech stream. Non-nasal stops, fricatives, and affricates are obstruents, which are sounds with full obstruction of airflow. Syllabic consonants are continuant consonants with vowel-like features at the ends of words, taking the place of whole syllables. An example would be the word mitten. You hear that mitten at the end. Young children very commonly spell such syllables with a single letter. They might spell mitten as MTN, or they might spell the word butter as BUDR. You might take a few minutes to pause the lecture recording and fill out each sound in the consonant chart. Pay attention to what your mouth is doing when you make each sound and if your voice box is engaged or not. Until they are phonemically aware, students may confuse or fail to distinguish speech sounds that share features or that are in the same row or column in the consonant chart, especially when the sounds are co-articulated in spoken words. Until they are phonemically aware, students may confuse or fail to distinguish speech sounds that share features or that are in the same row or column in the consonant chart, especially when they are co-articulated in spoken words. This is something to watch for in instruction and in assessment. What may look like a reversal or a spelling error may be a phonological confusion. You can see some examples of spelling errors on the screen. Spelling a word like every, E-F-R-Y, represents a confusion in terms of voiced or unvoiced sounds. These kinds of confusions can often be either prevented or corrected by drawing students' attention to what the voice box is doing when you make the sounds in every.